Challengers, a great movie that's comprehensive script and meticulous directing elevated this story to a whole new level. At its core, this is not a movie about tennis, and that's pretty obvious to anyone who watched it. Yes, it's centered around tennis, but this is a movie about the characters. And for a character driven movie to be successful, it needs to convey to the audience a holistic view of who the characters are. We need to know what are their goals, their motivations, who do they love, and what are their dreams. When a film successfully conveys the persona of a character, the audience is able to understand the character on a fundamental level and understand why they do what they do. This movie very successfully did that. It thrived when the director was able to tell us who these characters are, and he did so in very subtle but effective ways. Within the first 15 minutes, I had a pretty clear picture of who Tashi and Art were in relation to one another. The movie opens with Art in bed. He seems to just be waking up, while Tashi's character is up and running. She's moisturized and ready to go, while Art is still in bed. She tells him to get up, and she walks out the door without him. After a while, we get a scene where Tashi and Art are in the hotel discussing Art's career. He's had a losing streak recently, and Tashi asks him, "What do you want to do? Do you want to be a tennis player? Or do you want to work for the foundation full time?" He phrases it like it's a question, but it's clear that she will not accept his retirement. Her mouth is saying one thing, but her body language says another. Art is the same way. It seems as if he's considering her question, but in reality, there was never any other option for him than doing what she wants him to do. He says that he wants to be a tennis player, but it's really only to appease Tashi. Now, with the help of that simple character interaction, the movie has communicated one, that Tashi is controlling and unwilling to compromise, and two, that Art is compliant and malleable to her desires. Very simple, but very effective way of telling us who these characters are. When we first meet Patrick, he tries to smooth talk his way into getting a hotel room before paying. This tells the audience that Patrick is used to flirting and flattering to get what he wants. This character trait of Patrick's is confirmed when we get to meet Patrick in his teen years, and it's mentioned that he uses the same smooth-talking methods to flirt and get with multiple girls. As the movie delved into Tashi, Art, and Patrick's past, we get to learn who these characters were as individuals, as well as who they are in relation to one another. As I said before, this is where the director and his vision for the script really shine. There's two particular scenes where we get to see Patrick and Art's relationship truly bared for all to see. The first scene is when they're eating churros in Stanford's cafeteria. And the second scene is when they're in the sauna together years after they met Tashi. Now, it's the little things that make this scene a window into Patrick and Art's dynamic. It's in the way Patrick pulls in Art's chair in order for him to be closer to Patrick. It's in the way that their faces are inches apart and they don't even seem to notice how close they are. It's in the way Art gently brushes the crumbs off of Patrick's face. The audience can tell that there's a bit of attraction between the two, and despite the fact that Patrick is dating the girl that Art also likes, these two are also still incredibly close. Now, the great thing about this film is that although we learned a lot about the characters when we first met them, each scene tells us more and more about them. So we get to build on what we know about these characters so that they don't stay static. Instead, we constantly connect what we learned about the characters previously to what they are doing currently and add new information about their characters' traits as we see more of their interactions. In addition to this churro scene showing us how close Art and Patrick are, it also tells us more about Art and how far he's willing to go to be with Tashi. So far, he's been a pretty nice guy and a very good friend to Patrick. Even when he liked Tashi, he conceded to Patrick when he lost the tennis match between them and therefore lost the opportunity to get Tashi's number. But now, it seems that he's sick of standing aside for Patrick and Tashi. He seemingly nonchalantly tells Patrick that Art and Tashi had a conversation in which it seemed like she wasn't interested in being in a serious relationship with Patrick. He blatantly tries to manipulate Patrick and Tashi into breaking up. Now, he's not as suave and smooth as Patrick is, and immediately gets caught by Patrick, who knows exactly what he's trying to attempt. He even comments that it's something that he would do, and it's something that Art picked up from Patrick that he's now trying to use for his own gain. And again, later on, when Tashi is injured and Art is with her in the training room, instead of convincing Tashi to allow Patrick into the room, he joins her in telling him to leave. He takes Tashi's injury as an opportunity to push Tashi and Patrick apart while inserting himself by Tashi's side. He's not as considerate as we once thought. And again, the script is so well written that I can clearly tell that it's trying to nudge me and say, hey, this is another thing you need to know about Art and take note of so that you can file it away for later. Now, I mentioned there was another scene where we get to see the bare bones of Patrick and Art's relationship, the sauna scene. The sauna scene shows us how their friendship has evolved since when they were teenagers to now, professional athletes that have been doing this for quite a while. When they were in their teens, Art and Patrick were casual competitors, and they often went head-to-head in tennis matches. But now, their relationship is just like another tennis match, only it's not casual anymore. Each one is trying to win every single point they can, refusing to let up an inch with one another. In the past, Patrick was the winner in every way. He had the gorgeous girlfriend, the glamorous career traveling around the world on tennis tour, and he always beat Art on the court. But now Art is the victor. He got married to the woman they're both in love with. He had a successful tennis career, and he is no longer the nice, thoughtful friend willing to step back and concede to Patrick. Art reached out and took what he wanted, convincing Tashi to be his coach in order to get him to the next level, as well as getting the relationship with her that he's craved since he was a teenager. During this scene, Patrick tries to be the confident, swaggering person that he was in the past, but Art's accomplishments and carefully crafted composure takes him aback, and he's unable to be the same self-assured man that he used to be. Now, in addition to this being a story about friendship, this is also a story that deals very much with codependence. Now, when I first saw Tashi and Art interact, I thought that Art was the sole person that was reliant on Tashi. He seems to hang on to her every word, and he craves her unconditional love. When he asks Tashi to reassure him about his upcoming match with Patrick, he likens her to Jesus, telling us that her words are like gospel to him. He begs her to give him advice because she holds such power over him that she could ask him to jump, and he will simply ask her how high. But as I continued to watch the film, I realized that Tashi is just as dependent on Art as he is on her, just in a bit of a different way. Now, Tashi is a character who will say one thing and mean the complete opposite, so it's very important to watch her body language and actions much more than listening to the words that she's saying. One of the scenes in the first 15 minutes of the movie gives us a clue as to Tashi and Art's dynamic. In the beginning of the film, we see Tashi with a mock-up of a car advertisement portraying both her and Art on the cover. The original title on the ad is Game Changer, singular, but Tashi insists on adding the S, making it Game Changers, insinuating that she should also be acknowledged in the ad, and therefore the title should become plural in order to include her. Now, the important thing to note about this is that Art is the athlete. He's the one who gets in the brand deals. He's the one who has the fans. And he's the one who gets her the one thing that she is no longer able to get herself, a place back on the tennis court. Yes, she was still able to continue tennis after her injury, but she was never able to play at the same high level again. For all her talk to Art and Patrick about how she went to college to learn more than hitting a ball with a racket. In reality, she's never been able to pull herself away from tennis. Art was her ticket back into the world of tennis. And although she couldn't get back on the court like she wanted to, using art, she could still be there, not simply as an observer, but as a direct influence on Art's playing. With Art, she could still have some of the control that she lost after she injured herself. It's why she considered becoming Patrick's coach. I thought to myself, why would she even consider Patrick's proposal when he's already clearly burnt out and even said himself he only has one season left in him? Well, with the context of the advertisement scene, we can see that she's still desperate to be included in this world of tennis. Even if it's just for one more season, she wants it that badly. Why can't Patrick let go of Tashi, despite her harsh words and blatant dislike for him? Well, for him, he enjoys someone who can go toe-to-toe with him. Art has never been that person, at least when they were teenagers. Patrick was more of the go-getter, and Art kind of stood back more on the sidelines. With Tashi, Patrick sees a kindred spirit in her that makes him feel alive again after all these years of being a struggling tennis athlete. Even after she tells him to stay away from their family and slaps him in the face, he's still smirking like an idiot because he recognizes her ruthlessness. Tashi and Patrick's discussion in the car tells the audience that they can see each other for who they really are. And for Tashi, who has been pretending in front of Art for a very long time, and Patrick, who has been shuffling around year after year, hustling for money and smooth talking his way out of situations, it's a huge relief to them both. Now, initially, when Patrick suggested that Tashi had picked the Challenger tournament because she wanted to see him, I scoffed right along with Tashi, thinking that Patrick simply made that statement to boost his ego. But the ending of the movie and Tashi's final reaction to the match made me rethink Patrick's statement and go back to review Tashi's actions. Now, I was always curious as to why Tashi was so pleased watching Patrick and Art kiss. She claimed that she didn't want to be a homewrecker, but he was in fact the catalyst of Patrick and Art's falling out. As we've learned so far, Tashi is just as dependent on Patrick and Art as they are on her. If you remember, when the three of them were talking in the hotel room, Tashi asks them, "How long has this been going on?" indicating that Tashi knows that Patrick and Art are attracted to one another. Recall her statement that tennis is not about expressing yourself, but instead it's about a relationship between your opponent, and she recognizes the relationship between Patrick and Art, and she ultimately wanted to bring Patrick and Art together. Therefore, it's no longer such an outrageous idea that she did in fact choose that particular Challenger tournament in order for Art and Patrick to meet again. And remember, her actions are as much for herself as it is for the benefit of Patrick and Art, because she has also never let go of her relationship with Patrick. In the context of all that has gone on in their past, we can now understand why Tashi reacts with happiness at the end of the movie. We can see that even though Art lost the point in the match, Tashi is still satisfied with the outcome because Patrick and Art finally understand their relationship between one another, as well as the relationship between themselves as players that tennis has always been to her. Again, as I said at the beginning, at its core, this is a story about the characters, which is why the final result of the match between Art and Patrick is not shown, and ultimately doesn't matter to the storyline. And so we see how this horribly toxic but incredibly interesting codependency formed between Tashi, Art, and Patrick. It's all thanks to the director's innovative camera work and the script's attention to detail that the audience is able to peel back these layers and have a very clear look of these complicated but colorful characters. What did you think about this movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you very confused by the end? Did you really dislike the very loud music? Oh my gosh, why was the music so loud at some parts? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're interested in more film commentary and character analyses like this one, feel free to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and you can look forward to my next video. Bye bye.